anything.
This spring, Turner Feature Animation introduces you to some new characters you'll love in a story that could only happen in the movie.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
This time we're covering the massively underrated movie, Cats Don't Dance!
And one of Rascal's most favorite movies ever.
Yes!
And it's called Classic Spoofs, the rags to riches story as the aspiring female named Danny is becoming a big actor in a world where animals aren't so welcome in Hollywood.
And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click notification bells on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Absolutely. Now this movie came out and had a star-studded cast for the time it came out.
Yes,
in
it did.
1997.
It did.
It was a musical comedy directed by Mark Dindal in his feature directorial debut.
Mm-hmm.
And it features the voices of Scott Bakula, known for at that time for Quantum Leap, later on for being a captain of Starship Enterprise.
Yes.
Jasmine Guy, Matthew Herron, John Rhys Davies, Kathy Jimmy, Peggy Hill.
Yes.
Don Knotts, Hal Holbrook, Betty Lou Garson in her final film role, Renee Auberjonois, who we all love, and George Kennedy. So again, during the time, and Mark Dindal did a role as well.
Yes.
And for the time this came out, this was a star-studded cast.
Yes, definitely. And it's really a shame that it didn't do well at the box office. And decades later, it's become a cult classic like The Iron Giant. Now, this is one of those cases where it's actually true where a movie didn't perform well at the box office, but it got a huge fan base and following as years went on.
With a runtime of 74 minutes, it had a budget of $32 million and unfortunately made 10% of that back at the box office.
Oh, wow.
$3.5 million.
Oh, wow, yeah. And when we look at the runtime, it's like, what, 80 minutes? I believe 74 minutes. It's not even a long movie, and they didn't even have a lot of advertising for it. I mean, one trailer, and that's it. And they didn't advertise it. They didn't promote it as well, so people didn't probably even know about it. And I think that contributed to why the movie flopped so badly. Not because of the quality; it was fantastic. It just didn't get shown enough because you had a bunch of other big budget Hollywood movies coming out at the time, live action and things that it kind of pushed Cats Don't Dance to the wayside.
It was also set in an alternate 1939, and that may have been a problem for people during that time. In the 90s, you had other time periods that were being focused on and popular, and it wasn't in the 30s.
Right.
That might have hurt it as well.
Possibly.
And another thing that's really fantastic that you pointed out to me is the legendary Gene Kelly who helped choreograph the dancing in this movie, and it was his final contribution to any type of film before his passing.
Right, exactly. And he was actually one that came up with the idea in the first place for the storyline.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And originally it was going to be animated and live action, and there was a rumor they were going to have Michael Jackson in it doing a lot of the songs, like he was the one that would help the animals get the spotlight, and then it may have ended up changing to just being all animated. If that is true, that's actually pretty fun to hear.
Yeah.
And for here, the animals represent the minorities of Hollywood, and it's supposed to be a nod to reflect what happened with actors who were non-Caucasian that could not get work. And only here, they're all animals, and the animals were reduced to being bit roles, background. If they were in a biblical movie, they were sacrifices, they were killed off, they were defeated, they were villains, and they really worked that into there where it wasn't just in your face and on a soapbox or anything. It was just, this was in the world that was set up for this version of Hollywood. The biggest movie the animals could get was Noah's Ark, where they could all be in it.
Right. And thanks to the inspiration for Princess Morbug.
Yes.
She ruined that.
Dollar Dimple, right? And I love that it was a kid doing the voice for real, and she was perfect.
So I want to point out also that the musical numbers were all written by Randy Newman.
Yes.
His biggest claim to fame at that time was Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes. And knowing that he did those songs and these, this is why every song was a hit, and a lot of people love to sing. And you're feeling like, what is that? Where is that from? This movie.
And I think another thing they may have heard is Warner Brothers put it out under one of his sister studios.
Yeah, Turner Feature, and then
also known as Family Entertainment Label.
Right, and then they shut it down together because it performed so badly.
But that was their fault.
Yeah, if maybe they didn't want it to succeed, maybe they just didn't want this film. Because if they had done it under the normal label, I think it would have gotten a bigger audience. You probably would see a franchise or something related to it done now instead of just this one film. I think there could have been so much more done with it. So I think that would have helped it garner a larger fan base, and maybe we would have probably seen some more done with it. But right now, it's like Iron Giant. You just have this one film, and we just learned to appreciate even more.
And you said something there that I mentioned earlier that I really think affected this film. You have the Iron Giant, James and the Giant Peach. I probably can think of a couple more if I really put my mind to it. These are movies that took place in the 30s in different time periods. And I do believe, because it was set in 1939, in 1997, it hurt it.
Probably.
It's not like now where people who love animation love a variety of things to watch.
Right.
And you welcome when it's something in a different time period, in a different AU, on a different planet.
Because everyone has so many different ideas.
Voice actors and characters, you love it. But back then, you had the standard that was going on during that time. Part of it being in the 90s, you had like Disney shows that were really huge.
Yeah.
Disney movies that were really huge.
Right.
And I think that's what people were focusing on more. And I do think that's what hurt this movie.
Yeah.
No. It has no effect on the quality of it because the movie is outstanding.
Right.
I think if it were released now, or at least in the 2000s, or
like a theatrical release,
I think it would have done much better than 1997.
Because you have like the new series come out on YouTube called Lackadaisy, taking place during the and you're taking place during a time where the alcohol was banned, and it's in the 20s, and it's like very close to Cats Don't Dance, like if it was inspired by it. This would be a huge hit now, even if it wasn't long. And you even have with the cast of characters with their star-studded voice actors, everyone feels alive and animated. They all have their own little personalities to match up with the animals they were, and they had commentary on Hollywood without just hitting you over the head with it. It was still fun. It was still an imaginary place. And this was the only place that this segregation theme was being put in. It wasn't all across the movie. It wasn't in his hometown. It was just in Hollywood that they didn't treat animals well. And it still ended up being a really fun and interesting idea to do, and see how these animals are working around getting their roles and trying to be huge stars. Because you see at some points throughout the film that they were in movies and shows and things. They had smaller roles, but they were in the spotlight. Then something shifted, and suddenly, oh no, animals can't be in movies at all unless they're in roles that are, I guess for them, offensive type roles where they're always getting the short end of the stick.
Well, Dara Dempo didn't help that either.
Right?
And when I saw this, all I could think is, Powerpuff Girls, what year did that come out?
I think the 90s?
I know it was the 90s, but it was either, this came
99?
out in 97. So if this was first, then she was definitely an inspiration.
Yes.
For Princess Morba.
Yes.
Absolutely, because that's all you think when you watch it.
Yes.
And no, you don't like her. Yes, you love to hate her. And everything about this film just works. And I think it's a good thing. I like Michael Jackson songs and Michael Jackson fan. But I think it's good he didn't work on this one. It would be a whole different movie.
Yes.
It would have been something. I don't think that it would have become a cult classic nor lasted this long.
Right.
Because he would have had a different vision for it.
Yeah.
And I know that he did Smooth Criminal, which takes place in the same time period.
Right.
And maybe that's why they were thinking he'd be good for it.
Right.
However, I think it would have been such a different movie that we wouldn't be sitting here and talking about it today.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did.
Right.
And it also was critically acclaimed, even though it didn't do well at the box office.
Yes, very well. People really loved it then, and they love it even more now. And it's such appreciation for the type of movie it is. And then you got people hoping maybe one day it can do a comeback. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't, because you really don't want them to mess up what you love about it. So it would, if they did bring this back or announce, hey, we're doing a sequel after all these years, it would have to be in the same feel that you got from this first movie, and especially people want to put their own takes on stuff and update. That would be a challenge.
I think that would be a problem, because during this time you had again a stellar cast, at that time, and all of them were probably 30s and older, except for the one that did Darla Dimple.
Yeah.
Now they would cast a whole bunch of young voice actors,
and some of them are
gone.
gone.
I think that some of that, what comes through in the performances, is their talent, their experience, knowing how to bring the characters to life, the emotions, everything that come across. I think that really worked for this movie.
Yeah.
And if you go and go, okay, well, since they're young and this was young in the show, we're gonna cast all young voice actors for these roles.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna cast all older ones for these roles. And we gotta be politically correct.
Yes,
and we
that
gotta
would be the
make sure
problem.
this, and the things we don't like about 1939, we're gonna take out,
Yep.
or we're gonna change the year. I think leaving it as it is would be the best.
Most likely. And the last thing would be the music, as you said, right? Randy Newman is really fantastic. The Nothing's Gonna Stop Us has been a lot of people's favorites, along with the opening and closing. It's just really fun, and you love how the songs are all really uplifting. The villain song, which is like an ode to the Disney villain songs of the past, sound like a villain song. You had your one somber song, which sounded really good with Jasmine Guy, and it was just fantastic the whole time through. You're just loving the entire movie as a whole. Everything from animation, casting, writing, the shout outs. It just was one of the most perfect movies ever made.
Absolutely. Last thing, some fun facts. It was first released on VHS and Laserdisc.
What?
And to promote it, they gave away $125 off a continental flight.
What?
And
so they were trying.
They were really trying. And the first DVD release was September 3rd of 2002, and people have been buying it since. Now, if you haven't seen it, you can rent it, you can buy it, you can go to Google Play,
you can stream
Amazon
it,
Video, buy it on Blu-ray. You can see it if you haven't seen it. But if you have seen it, let us know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't, watch it, come back, tell us what you think, because we know you're going to love this movie.
Yes. And if you don't know, subscribe for updates, if we videos for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, subscribing, following us on social media, as well as sharing our videos. It helps out our channel a lot. And as always, you know you are
special. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mask Entertainment.
And I'm On Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.